Here we are in the Mural API samples repo, and sample number 11 is all about using Watson Discovery to search in murals. I'm going to run this first notebook to create some sample murals that I can search in. I need to copy the raw URL of this notebook so that here in my Watson Studio project, when I create a new notebook, I can create the notebook from that URL. I'm going to give my notebook a name, and I'm going to choose the smallest runtime. In step 1, I'm going to load some widgets for 4 sample murals into my notebook. Next, I need to go and grab the ID of the mural workspace where I want to put these murals. First, I have to make some rooms in my workspace, and then I want to make some folders in those rooms. Now I can create some empty murals in those rooms and folders. And finally, I can populate those murals with some widgets. So let's go and have a look in Mural to see what was created. One room was created called Sarah's Room, and when I go in there, I can see one mural called Holiday Classics. It is December. And then there's another room called A Second Room, and in this room there's one mural with zoo animals, and there's also 2 folders. In first folder, there's a mural that has farm animals, and a second folder that has a mural with comments about musical instruments. So these are the 4 murals that we'll be searching using Watson Discovery. The second sample notebook shows you how to use the Mural API to read mural metadata and widget data into a format that you can upload into Discovery. I'm going to grab the raw URL for that second sample notebook, and back in my Watson Studio project, I'm going to create another notebook again from that URL. Just like with the previous notebook, I need to get a mural OAuth token, and I need to paste in the mural workspace details just like in the previous notebook as well. So the first thing I'm going to do is get metadata about the rooms in my workspace. Then I'm going to get some metadata about the murals themselves. And finally, I'm going to get details about the widgets in those murals. In Watson Discovery, they talk about searching collections of documents. In our case, you can consider one mural to be equal to one document. So what we're going to do here is create an array of JSON structures, and we're going to call each one of those structures a document. Each of these documents has metadata about the mural, about the room it's in, and about the widgets that it contains. The last thing we'll do in this notebook is save that documents array as a file in our Watson Studio project. The third sample notebook demonstrates how to take that documents structure that we just created and upload it to Watson Discovery so it can be indexed for search. Just like before, I'm going to grab the raw URL of the sample notebook in the GitHub repo. I'm going to create a new asset in my project, create a notebook from URL. In this notebook, the first thing we need to do is get credentials to access that file that we created as an asset in our project, and you can do that using the data panel. Now that I've got credentials defined, I'm going to run a little routine to read the file out of Cloud Object Storage so that it's in my notebook working directory. Now I'll read from that JSON file into memory, and what I need to do is there are 4 documents in our array. Remember, one document equals one mural. I need to save each document in its own JSON file. Great, so now I've got the original file, documentsarray.json, and I have one file for each mural. In order to use the Watson Discovery API, we need to go and get an API key and a service instance URL. You can get that from the Manage page in IBM Cloud. We got the IBM Watson library installed in our notebook, and now we're ready to create a project in Discovery. In that project, we need to create a collection. So we're going to have one project, we're going to have one collection in it, and we're going to put all of our documents, where one document equals one mural, we're going to put all our documents in that single collection. Great, so you can see the status that's printed saying that the documents are in pending state. What's that mean? Let's go and launch the Watson Discovery graphical interface, their web interface. Here you can see our project that we created, the Mural Search project. And if I go in there, you can see it says that there are updates underway, so it's indexing the documents basically. So let's leave that for a second. Now when we come back a few minutes later, the updates are done, so we can click through there and we can see the collection we created. And if we click into the collection, we can see 4 documents are available for search. And when we click on Manage Data, you can see the 4 JSON documents listed there. The next sample notebook in the repo demonstrates how to use the Watson Discovery API to run queries to search your documents. So I'll create this notebook as an asset in my Watson Studio project, just like we did for the previous ones. Just like before, I need to put in my Watson Discovery API key and service instance URL, install the Watson library, and get authenticated with the API. Now, in the previous notebook, when we created the project, a project ID was printed in the output. So I'm going to go back to that other notebook and I'm going to copy the project ID from there and paste it into this search notebook. Now I can experiment with some queries. First, most basic case, I'm going to query with an empty string. What that's going to do is return all the documents. There are 4 documents, so I can see right away, matching results 4, it returned all 4 documents. Then you can see there's a bit of metadata, and then there's an array called results. There are 4 items in that array, and they are basically the entire contents of each of the documents. If we run another empty query, but this time use a filter, we can tell Watson Discovery only return matches for murals that are in the room named Sarah's room. And there was only 1 mural in there. So there should be, even though the query is exactly the same, this time there should be only 1 result. And indeed, there is only 1 result. Okay, let's keep going. If I search now for a string that contains the word bear and the word zebra, those are both zoo animals, this query should return 1 mural, which is the zoo animals mural. Sure enough, 1 result. Now you're probably starting to see that this is really hard to read. There are more examples in the notebook that show how to use passages and how to use the discovery query language. I want to scroll down to the bottom of the notebook. There's a routine there that formats the search results in a little bit more of a human-friendly way. So if we run a search again for the words turkey and bear, and we say only search in stickies and return passages that include sticky text, here we can see search results again, but it's quite nicely formatted, and it shows a passage saying this is a rectangular sticky note, and the word polar bear with the word bear emphasized shows this is how Discovery decided that this mural matched my query. This formatted results is a lot nicer than what we were looking at a minute ago, but we could do even better than this. Back in the samples repo, there is also a Python Flask app. So I'm going to run that on my computer. So the first query that I'm going to run here is just an empty string, just like we did in the notebook. And you can see we get all 4 documents returned. In the upper left corner, there is a text box where you can type a string that you want to search for. And then there's some filters that you can experiment with. In the bottom left, there's a text area showing the discovery query language query that is generated for your search string and the filters that you selected. You can see that getting generated automatically, and you can type in there to change it around if you want to experiment directly with the query language. Then there's a submit button. You click that, and on the right hand side you'll see the raw results from discovery that we were looking at in the notebook, which is eye-watering. And then in the lower right hand corner you can see an HTML formatted kind of nice search results area. Now if I add some text in the search text box, you can see that the generated query gets automatically updated. And I can do things like filter results based on when the mural was created. I can even do things like filter results based on what colors are present in the stickies and the text areas and the shapes. That's kind of cool. So this app isn't meant to be impressive, but what it does do is it gives you the ability to experiment with the query language and directly see what the results are. And it shows you what's possible with a user experience around searching in murals. So the idea that you would search not just on text, but on colors and other metadata about the mural. I think there's a lot of possibility here. You could search on shapes. You could search on who the creator is. You could search on when it was last updated. There's so much potential for a deep search of murals. And this Flask app gives you something you can experiment with. You can take this app and modify it to experiment.